We're going back to the museum one more time. We're going to the 4th floor. The 4th floor was my favorite floor when I was a little kid. I love dinosaurs. So we're going to hit the dinosaur floor. And beautiful painting. We're starting. I'm going to turn around. I'm hiding them from you. Here we are. Okay. So the dinosaurs as they are now in the museum are divided into 2 groups. I'm gonna say these words badly. Ornithischian and Saurusian. The first hall, this one, and the other hall. Why are they split up like that? It has to do with the way that the dinosaurs are built. So it's not a statue, it's a relief. So it's like it sticks out from a wall. That's a relief, like carved in. If you look towards the bottom of the relief, there's like one stick, and then it branches off like a tree into 2 parts. So there's dinosaurs on the left and dinosaurs on the right. The dinosaurs in this room are the dinosaurs on the left, which are the Ornithischian dinosaurs. And the other ones are the Saurusian. So they're where we're going to go at the end. And they're split up like this because of the way that their hips are built, the way that their hip bones work, like kind of like related to the way that they walk. So all the dinosaurs in this room are Ornithischian, and they have similar hip bones, but there's all different kinds of dinosaurs that walk like this. So I'm going to go this way first, and I'm just going to hit like the most famous ones. Let's do this guy. Okay, so everybody knows this guy, right? Stegosaurus. So Stegosaurus, back in the day when I was really tiny still, so I was tiny in like the 80s, right? People used to say that Stegosaurus had 2 brains. That sounds super weird. There was 1 brain in the head and 1 brain like in his tail. And if you look at his head, his head's pretty small. He's got like a tiny head. So you can imagine like if you look at the point at the back, top of his head, that's where the brain would fit. That's like the smallest brain cavity for a large animal that you could possibly find. But even back when he was discovered, scientists already thought that this was wrong. The problem is that it was published in a magazine, and the idea of an animal having 2 brains was so interesting that the media just went with it. Like people just started believing it like a rumor. So it had 1 brain, and it had a large bundle of nerves in its hips. It wasn't another brain. It was just a bundle of nerves, or a cavity that they think was full of nerves. When I was a kid, sometimes they would draw Stegosaurus where like the plates would stick out of the skin, but there's lines all over the plates that tell scientists that there were blood vessels attached to the plates for skin. So skin definitely went over the plates. So this is Triceratops. So this is probably the most famous ceratopsian. So ceratopsians, like I'm going to run over here so fast, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So this one, that one's even one. So you can see these are all different ceratopsians. So the deal is that they had like frills on the back of their heads, and they had like all horns and stuff. And that's what they have in common, aside from their hip bones, and aside from like they had like a beaky mouth sort of thing going on. So Triceratops lived alongside T-Rex. So not all these animals were alive at the same time. Like some of them were like maybe 10 million years difference between when one was alive and when another one was alive. But this one was alive when T-Rex was alive. T-Rex damage has been found on Triceratopses. So there's even one Triceratops that you can read about in the text that is offered by the British Museum. So like this museum's British version. And it talks about that there's a Triceratops that had one of the horns bitten off, and the bite mark is the same exact size as the T-Rex teeth. So they know that a T-Rex bit that horn off. Okay, we're changing halls. Going into the Saurusian hall. In the other hall, there were no carnivores. This is the only hall where there are dinosaur carnivores in this museum. And in the rotunda, there's the Allosaurus. But I am coming in here now. Okay, so we know who we're looking for, right? He's not my favorite. There he is. He might have been a she, but he's named a king, so I'm saying it's a he. We're going to pass him by. We're going to pass right by. I'm going to go right back because I'm not going there first. I'm going here because that might be the king. But the one that I'm going to show you first is perhaps one of the most interesting fossils in the museum. So we're starting with the relief. Again, this is another copy of the relief. We have the split. So we just went to the hall full of these guys, and these are all herbivores. And then now we're over here. Not all the dinosaurs in the Saurischian hall are carnivores, theropods like T-Rex, but there's also sauropods. This is probably the most famous sauropod of all time. And I'm going to call him Apatosaurus, which is what people are calling him now, because that's probably what he was. But sauropods are, I guess all dinosaurs are weird, but sauropods are weird because so many, not mistakes, but like different conclusions have been drawn about sauropods, and they've changed over the years. So it shows you that paleontology and like all sciences are dynamic. Dynamic means that you keep changing. So sauropods, they have been dead for a really long time, but they keep changing. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to talk to you about this guy. He didn't look like this when I was little. I'm going to show you somewhere. I'll have the printing. You can see what he looked like. And kind of from here up, or I guess maybe from here up, he definitely didn't look like this when I was little. So it's super interesting. Anyway, from here back, this animal was mounted onto its metal skeleton in 1905. It was the first sauropod to ever be mounted in history. So the one in the British Museum, step off, this guy came first. And this guy was called Brontosaurus, and that's what I called this dinosaur. When I was a little kid, the halls weren't the same, so there wasn't just two halls like those, like what they are now. There was, different halls, whatever. And this guy was in the Brontosaurus hall. It was a Brontosaurus hall, and he was in there. There were people arguing about this specimen, this fossil, and others just like it since the time that they were dug out of the ground. And people were having this constant argument that this Brontosaurus and this Apatosaurus, because it's really what it is, I guess, that they were so genetically similar that maybe they shouldn't have different names. So in 1995, there was kind of like, or like just prior to 1995, there was like kind of a sort of revolution in paleontology, and Brontosaurus was destroyed. Like that name was ousted, and people weren't going to use it anymore. And that's when this hall was redone right after that. So this is legit an Apatosaurus, and it's so different from the one that I used to look at because it had a different head, which is like kind of a huge deal. Like you look at the dinosaur's face, right? So the face that I used to look at when I was a little kid was a completely different face. It was a different shape. If you look in this glass case right here, the one on the left is more similar to the head that I would have seen as a child, and the one on the right is more similar to the one that's there now. It's like that made a huge difference as to what animal this was. Even though the Brontosaurus had been thrown out, people kept arguing about it. And especially like one of the people that were the loudest about it was this paleontologist, Bakker, who was actually from New Jersey. He was arguing that Brontosaurus is different enough to be its own animal and that we shouldn't throw that name in the garbage. In 2015, paleontologists finally got together and decided that, hey, Brontosaurus is real. That's it. We're keeping it. And he's back, but he's got the right head now. Let's go this way. Did I go too far? Yeah, I went too far. There's Allosaurus right there. Going down the end of the hall. This is it. This is a big guy. Talk a little bit about this dude right here. T-Rex. There he is. So back in the day, he was named the king of the dinosaurs because he looked like such a vicious predator and theropod. And he's been completely remounted. So when I was young, the way he was mounted, like he had been since 1907 or whatever, when he was originally mounted, he was standing up straight. So this whole room was done in 1995, like I said, and by then paleontologists had discovered that the way that they would use the tail is like a counterweight, and they would use it to balance, so they would lean forward and they wouldn't be standing up straight the way that I had seen him when I was little. T-Rexes were originally found just with their teeth. Like their teeth were found first, and they were attributed, like given to other dinosaurs. So they would pull the tooth out of the ground and be like, oh, this belongs to a different dinosaur. So people were actually finding T-Rex pieces and they didn't even know for a while. And those pieces were then looked at later and said, oh, this doesn't belong to an Allosaurus. This is a T-Rex tooth. We didn't know that T-Rex existed. And Barnum Brown found the first really good partial skeletons of T-Rexes in 1900 and then in 1902. And it was a Dr. Osborne from this particular museum who actually named that dinosaur T-Rex. Their teeth are like 60 in total on average, and they can grow to be about 8 inches long. And as we said before, when we were looking at the Triceratops, they can bite through bone. There have actually been pieces of bone found in coprolite, which is dinosaur poop. So we know that they even ingested that bone and, were fine, obviously. And their skulls tell you that they had a great sense of smell. So one of the debates that keeps going on about T-Rex, like not like a hot debate, like a fight, like the Brontosaurus and the Apatosaurus kind of thing, is, and I don't know, like this T-Rex skull, you can see that it is not completely symmetrical. This T-Rex had some kind of like a battle or something. He was scarred. But in there, the area where the old sense organs are, like for smelling, it's a huge cavity. So these guys could smell super well. They may have been just hunters, or they may have been hunters and scavengers too. They may not have been picky where they got their food from. Anyway, all right, that's it. I hope one day, if you haven't gone, you get to go to this place. It's like a magical place. It's so wonderful. I wish you a good summer. I look forward to seeing you in the fall, and stay safe. And I miss you.